Hello, I'm Mike Smith with RAS Systems, and today I'm going to show you how to change the folding beam potentiometer on a turbo bend machine. It is exactly the same for whether it be an old 4000, a 5000, or a 6000. The potentiometers are exactly the same location, same mechanical setup. So the first step I'm going to do is turn the machine on and calibrate it. So I've got the machine coming on. As soon as the screen appears, I'm going to turn the key power on and select the F8 button, my calibrate. Then I'm going to push F4 to calibrate it. Didn't have the key quite turned on, and it's calibrating. So now that it's calibrated, I'm going to exit this screen using the main menu button. 4000 and 5000, the menu button is the same. On a 6000, it's slightly different. Once I'm back to the main screen, I'm going to select the step operation screen. In this case, it's F4. A system 5000 would be F6, and a system 6000 would be located in the menu bar for the touch screen. In either case, they all have the same symbol, which is the counterclockwise dotted circle and the dotted arrow underneath. So in this case, I'm going to select F4. Once I've selected my step screen, I'm going to use the cursor keys to move to the upper beam mark location, and I have it set right now for 0.024 dimension. And to clamp this beam, I will press the start button and press the left foot pedal and clamp it down. Now that I have the beam down and clamped, I'm free to move the folding beam in any location I wish. Next step is going to be removing the old potentiometer and replacing it with a new one. Since this potentiometer is still good, I'm just going to show you how to remove it, and I'm just going to replace the old one back in its place. But you will need a 10mm wrench to loosen the screw that holds the potentiometer in. So I'm going to start by loosening the nut that's located directly behind the potentiometer. It's a 10mm. Loosen that a couple of turns. And then I'm going to kind of hold the device that's behind it and pull the potentiometer out. In the case of a new potentiometer, you would remove these two nuts that hold this metal bar onto it and replace that onto the new potentiometer before putting it back into the mount set. It's basically a nut on a squeeze collar. So the more you tighten it, it squeezes down on this pin. So once you get it out, you can remove with these two small screws on either side and unplug the old potentiometer, plug the new one in, and once again transfer this bar onto the new potentiometer. And before we install the potentiometer, we have to make sure it's set in the correct position. So I'm going to move back to the computer. So we're still in the step operation screen, so I have to exit that screen by pressing the main menu key. I'll call it the double square key because there's two small squares on it. Takes us back to the home screen. The next step will be go into the parameters for this control. Same process for 5000, 6000, slightly different. And there's three buttons I have to press at the same time to get into that screen. First button is going to be the JP button, which is directly above the auto. It looks like UP, but it is in fact JP. So that's the first press. I hold this one. Also have to press the enter button in the bottom right corner and this main menu key all at the same time. And it changes to the operational parameters of the machine. Once we're in the parameters, there are two keys located at the bottom that both say basis. We want the basis for the folding beam, which is the folding beam is shaded in F4. So I'm going to select F4, and you'll see a screen with a graph. And the angles taught to the machine are on the left, and apply to those points is graphed so the machine can interpolate between the angles. So you only have to teach, I usually teach 4. This machine only has 3, but I'll put 4 in this case just to show you. Now you notice that the angle is showing a negative 84.51 right now. So with the new potty installed, I'm going to turn the pin that's on the potentiometer, watching that angle, and you see it starts to change. I'm going to go for something very small, say 1 to 2 degrees. So I'm at, say, 3 degrees right now. That number is going to change when I reinstall it, but 3 is a good low starting point. And you'll notice that the ACT potty volt at the top is at a low number, 2.4 in this case. I'm going to go slightly lower because I like mine to be around 1. So 1.9, that's good for me. 1.8. Once again, those numbers are going to change once I install it, but then we'll teach it where the angles are once it is installed. So I'm going to go back down now and install the potentiometer. I have already inserted the potentiometer back into its holder, and the nut will have to be tightened finger tight, and then once you get it finger tight, go just a small distance past that till it feels snug. Don't go very tight, because if you go too tight, it will pull this potentiometer right back out again. So that should be enough, and I'm going to go back up to the screen again. Okay, so now that I've got the potentiometer installed, I have to teach the angles to the machine so it knows what angle it's at. So I'm going to take my magnetic protractor, or angle finder, whatever you wish to call it, has a refrigerator magnet, and just going to stick it on the beam. Based on my angle finder, I'm a little off. So first thing I'm going to do is go up to these positions, and for position 1, I'm just going to clear everything out for now and start fresh. So position 1, since it's a little off of 90 or plumb, I'm going to tell it it's at approximately 4 degrees. Move to the right with the arrow key and press F2 to teach it that angle. Now the computer believes that it's at 4 degrees, so I should be able to come down some, and it comes to 3, which is its minimum position. I'm very nearly plumb. Actually, in actuality, I'm not at 3 degrees. So I'm going to change position 1 to 0.01 because I cannot enter zeros. And that's very close. So I'm going to highlight the potentiometer number again, press F2. So my second position of the 4 that I'm going to teach it is going to be 45 degrees, because I like to use 45-degree increments. And I'm just going to guess at a number for now and say 3. Just type in 3 on the number pad, and move back to the 45 and begin moving the beam upwards using F7. And as long as you hold it, it will move. And I'm going to put it at 45 degrees based on my angle finder. So it starts to move up. I'm trying to get it on the 45. Not quite there yet. That's about as good as it gets for the 45-degree angle on the angle finder. So now I'm going to highlight the potentiometer number and press F2, and it sets the beam position at 45 degrees. Now for position 3, I'm going to put in 90, move to the right of the potentiometer number, and once again press F7 to raise the beam up till it's at 90 degrees. Didn't quite make it, so I'm going to go a little past. Now I'm right on 90. Should you pass the 90 and you have to go back down, you can press F8 to lower it. But I'm pretty much on 90 right there. So I'm going to highlight in the potentiometer position, press F2 to teach it. Next position is going to be 135 degrees or 45 more degrees above 90. So I've typed in 135 at position 4 and highlighted on the right at the potentiometer number. Once again, press F7 to raise the beam. Based on my angle finder, I'm at 135, which is actually pointing at 45 on the angle finder. And press F2 to teach that position. Now it believes it's at 134.9, might as well be 135. And just to make sure its maximum position is 150, I'm going to attempt to go there just to see if it will. It goes to 150.76, which is very close. So once I've got it, all my angles taught or typed in and taught the potentiometer positions, I'm going to press F1, which is the sort tab key. That redraws the graph and locks those numbers in. Once that's done, I can use the down arrow or F8 and bring the beam back down to the bottom. And once again, it stops at 3 because that is the minimum position. Now once your angles are taught, you can leave this screen and actually calibrate the machine. So I'm going to remove my potentiometer or my protractor from the folding beam and exit the screen with F4, which takes me back to the parameter page. And I'm going to use the main menu key, the one that's in red, to go back to the main screen. Once again, I'm going to go back to F4, the step operation, move the cursor down to the folding beam mark number, and I'm going to tell it to go to 90 degrees by typing that in. And my speed is set for 30% right now, so it should move nice and slow to 30 once I press start. And it went to 89.6. It falls just slightly because the brake has to catch the beam before it can fall, and it falls slightly. Not uncommon. So now I'm going to put it back to the bottom by typing in 3 on my mark number and start. And it's going to go back down. With a 5,000 control in this step operation, there will not be a mark number. It'll be called the destination, or it'll be abbreviated as DEST on the screen. And you could change the speeds by pressing the speed plus or speed minus to increase or reduce the speed. So for example, if I press the speed plus key, that number begins to increase in the speed, and I'm going to go on up to 100%. Type in 90 again on the folding beam and press start. Up to 90 degrees. And once again, 3, and send it back down with the start button. And I'm listening for it to see if it bangs into the machine, which it didn't. So it's fairly set up and accurate at this point. So that's how you change the potentiometer for the folding beam on a turbo bend. Once you have your angle set, you can resume normal operation. Should you need to change the upper beam potentiometer, mechanically it's the same, except that when you enter the step mode, you want to have the upper beam completely closed before you start the process. Once it's closed, then you can proceed with changing out the potentiometer, and you want to set that potentiometer to a very low value, or as close to 0 as you can get it. And once you do that, then you can teach the machine where the upper beam's position is, and you should be good to go from there.